A media buy can go in and say, oh, I requested this creative. I know this is in the works. I know we just got approval here. I'm going to launch this.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Growth Mentors, the podcast where we share snackable growth hacks, strategies, and best practices in how to drive maximum marketing impact and grow your bottom line. I'm your host, Matt LeBlanc, and today we're going to be talking about how to use Monday.com to promote scalability and growth in your digital marketing efforts. We're also going to touch on some performance tracking features that Monday offer, and should you be using them. So here to help us do it is a senior project manager at Jump 450, Morgan Scheib. How you doing, Morgan?
Doing great. Happy to be talking about Monday again.
Yes, happy to have you back. Morgan, take me right into this. How does Monday.com support agency growth?
Monday.com offers, again, that one-stop shop for everything that you have going on. So then you can really determine what more you can take on, but it also helps you develop a process, and not just you, but across the agency in the operations from department to department, to develop a very smooth workflow so that you're not trying to reinvent the wheel for each client each day, figuring out what's going on. So then you can keep taking on more clients, building that more work. Mm-hmm. And then it's a win for you, it's a win for the agency, and it's a win for the clients because everything is a smooth wheel.
Excellent. What sorts of features do you feel like Monday offers that you find yourself primarily using in this area?
Yeah, this is a great way to figure out kind of where the needs are and if they're shifting. If there are any trends we're seeing across the agency that we can bring into other accounts, like if there's a bunch of recurring tasks, or if we're doing something for a particular client that they're loving that we can utilize elsewhere, or just ways where we can see kind of what's broken within the efficiency. So where are we kind of getting hung up? Where are the bottlenecks within the process where we can kind of iron this out? Or is this an internal issue or an external issue? How can we use Monday.com to keep things moving slowly? And I think not utilizing Monday.com or not utilizing it properly kind of really emphasizes where those breaking points are.
Can you give us an example of that, of maybe how it identifies one of those breaking points?
The loop between the media team and the creative team. It's a loop that we always want to keep closed, because as a performance agency, if that loop isn't closed, then there's a disconnect and we're developing creative that's not performing, or we don't have what we need to perform. So it's kind of those two teams need to be in constant communication.
Yeah.
And what we were finding is that when there wasn't a one person who was uploading this information back into Monday or making those creative requests, creative wasn't really getting delivered, or they didn't have support. Media didn't know kind of how to do these things. So that was a big area where we were how can we collaborate with these two teams, where we created the CRB and developed a role for a creative specific PM so that that loop can be closed. So then when we're iterating on different things, we have different statuses within the Monday board that say iterate, retest, or let's archive, this didn't work.
Right.
So that we know, and from the media side, they can go in and update that. Creative then knows, and then back to the auto IDs, we can easily pull what that creative looked like.
I love that you chose to sort of focus on that point, because I know that is something that can really distinguish good agencies from some agencies that aren't performing as well, is when you do have the media and the creative teams working so closely like that. It's a really big deal if to have that communication going back and forth. So often we find those teams siloed away from each other. And at Jump, I know that is such a central part of kind of what we do is having those teams work so closely together. So good to know that Monday.com is really such a crucial tool that we're using to connect them.
Yeah. And I think with that as well, of knowing when things are getting approved or what's getting worked on, I think it's not only just beneficial for us internally, but then the client, we look like a unified team. A media buy can go in and say, oh, I requested this creative. I know this is in the works. I know we just got approval here. I'm going to launch this. So it helps them plan out their next couple weeks with a client as well. And then in reverse, the creative team then knows, okay, like I can talk about what the performance was because we talked about it. Or like, I know I'm going to iterate on this. I can go in and help support. Why are we iterating? How are we going to iterate? Like, is it just changing this headline, or are we changing the image, the color, whatever that looks like? So that just creates so much collaboration that's beneficial for the client as well as the media buyer and creative to kind of expand their expertise.
Excellent. Talk to me about like different views or different boards. Like, let's get into the weeds a little bit on this here. Previous to recording, we were talking a little bit about Gantt charts and the ways that those are effective or maybe not as relevant as sometimes people think. But can we talk about the Gantt charts and the calendar views and maybe some of the more specific boards that we're actually going to be using in Monday to promote growth?
Clients love a good Gantt chart.
Yeah.
They love a good roadmap. And I think it's good when we're onboarding new clients or we're trying to plan quarterly or whatever that time looks like to see kind of a rough outline of what the plan is so that we're kind of all moving in the same direction.
Yeah, it's necessary.
It's necessary.
But
we don't want to be married to a Gantt chart.
Right.
One of the big things I think that differentiates us is our agility and our ability to let the performance tell us what it needs.
Yeah.
Our buyers and our creative team are great at pivoting the needs. We're working on this, but now we're seeing it's not working. Okay, how can we make it work? Or like, this is winning creative. Let's really lean into that. Like maybe the client's priorities were shifting, but they're shifting from a different point of view, not from a media performance point of view. So how can we say, like, we hear you, here's the Gantt chart, we will follow this, but also telling them and giving them that feedback loop of, this is what we're seeing, this is what we recommend leaning into. If we want to extend this Gantt chart and push this down the road and lean into this, and then revisit the next initiative when maybe we see a performance dip or what have you, we can do that. But we like a Gantt chart. We don't need to be married to one.
Right. So, and the reason that Monday I think is so relevant to kind of be talking about the Gantt chart is because, so it's great for everyone to see the roadmap, but performance is going to dictate our direction, right? So we're often finding ourselves in digital marketing pivoting really quickly, right? Maybe you can speak to this better, but the Gantt charts in Monday, you know, we set up a Gantt chart. This is where we're headed. But then when things pivot, we can change that chart really quickly and easily. Yeah.
Yeah. We can update dates. We can add in dependencies of like, we will move on to this next initiative dependent on this first initiative. So every time that initiative extends, the next initiative is going to extend. So I think like that flexibility of updating it in one spot and not having to go in and color the boxes in a Google sheet and then extend that out and all of that is kind of like the old fashioned ways of a Gantt chart. And just having it in a system that's not updated regularly. I think just having it all into Monday provides that visibility for internal and external teams to stay on the same page.
Yeah. Morgan, talk to me about some like successful tactics that we've seen in Monday. Maybe we've seen something work on one account and then we're taking it to another account as a best practice because we see that this is promoting efficiency and growth.
So I think that's how the client approval boards really developed.
Yeah.
So we first started with client creative approvals. We were uploading them all the creative to a G Drive folder and then sending it over in a copy sheet and then getting the feedback in that sheet, translating it back into Monday. So it was just like a big loop of like different sheets, different places, uploading, downloading.
Yeah.
It was a disaster.
And it was time consuming and it was complicated to sort through. Yeah.
It was. And then we developed the client creative approval board where it's mirroring our internal creative request board. So we put in a creative request and then it will automate to put into the client approval board. That way the client always knows where it stands with our team. And when it is ready for them to review, they can update the status in Monday.
Right.
To then go back to those automations that I was talking about in the last episode of like, then our team knows. And it's less manual work. And again, it's all in one spot.
Right. And so if you are, working on the agency side or the brand side and you find yourself sharing creative through a messaging system like Slack or something like
Yeah.
that, you're finding a lot of messages getting lost, or, maybe you work on the agency side of things and you're having a hard time wrangling a client for creative approvals. You've got multiple people giving approvals and you've got lots of, items coming through and stuff like that. This client facing creative board can be really, really helpful in tracking those items and keeping everybody accountable and on the same page.
Absolutely. And I think the other part of that too with Monday is the activity log on an item. I can see who updated it when, if it was sitting with us too long, or if the client has maybe had it and needs just another ping to look at something or to provide an update. I think the updates feature of being able to tag clients in Monday really helps there as well. And I think when we're talking about approvals, especially when it comes to things like budget, no one wants to be messing up budgets. No one wants to be launching creative that's not actually approved. Those status updates that Monday provides, that the client can go in, or whoever is approving can go in and be like, yep, this is ready to go. I approve this. We have that log in Monday that
Right.
says it's approved.
Yeah.
So it kind of just gives everybody a little bit of peace of mind to then have those roles and responsibilities of those people that are the final say, the final approvals, getting that, and that's automatically communicated back to the team.
That's such a great point. Anything else that you wanted to touch on in terms of scalability and growth before we move on to some thoughts about performance tracking?
Yeah, I think with scalability and growth, I think you really have to figure out what works for your team and for your department. Our CRB, Creative Request Board, and our master task board for the buyers looks so different.
Can you give us some differences there, some significant differences, and maybe why?
The way the creative mind works and the way the media buying mind works are so different.
Yeah.
Creative team has a lot of different people working on accounts. So their board is a lot more built out. Who's the creative resource? Who's the creative director on the account? Who's the project manager? What client is this for? There's automations that are set up to when a new request goes in. It's a template of all the information that they're going to need to create a request. There's a lot more statuses that go into a creative request. So like there's going to be an internal review, a client review, legal, things that are uploaded to platform but not launched. We're holding production. So there's a lot more steps that go into a creative request than a master task. So like a master task could just be like updating a deck, not just media buyers do a lot, but
For sure.
it's a lot more simple and it's more of their own work and not passing back and forth to a bunch of different people.
Right.
So it's a little bit more of a simple view of like, kind of more of like a reminder of like, we talked about this in a meeting. This is what you were going to do. Here's some information. But with the master task board, I would say it's more focused on the pods to see from a client point of view, like what all we have working on for that client.
I see. When you say pod, do you mean the team that is working on a particular client?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, with that said, I wanted to talk about performance tracking. People have a lot of questions surrounding performance tracking on Monday.com and using Monday.com to track their performance. I thought this was sort of an interesting reveal when you and I kind of started preparing for this episode, because obviously we use Monday.com for, all of our processes and organizational tasks, teams, all of these things, right? And we're also super, super focused on performance and tracking performance, but we don't really use these features in Monday. True?
Yeah. We have an amazing reporting data analytics team that builds out different types of dashboards and views to see how we're actually performing with what matters to the client. I think if we, for our purposes, if we went to a client and we're like, we did 1 million tasks for you this month. They're like, our ROAS is a 2. And you're like, yeah, but like, look at how many tasks we closed out.
Yeah.
When we're looking at performance in a performance marketing agency, we have to go back to the bottom line of like, what is the goal of the client? And it's not to complete tasks, it's to build revenue, get a high ROAS, whatever that looks like. And so we can't do that if we're not organized. So it might not be a direct reflection of like, we're tracking this in Monday, but when performance is good, it's usually because things are running smoothly, tasks are getting completed on time, creatives running through the creative team and back, and then that data is running back to them. So Monday helps with that. While we don't use Monday to measure it, we can see the benefits when the client is doing well.
I think that the other sort of like way to look at this though also is that, look, we don't work for Monday.com. We use it. We like it for a lot of things. This is not a commercial for people to use Monday.com. We're trying to share, educational information on what should you be using it for, maybe what should you not be using it for. And I think the truth is for performance tracking, we have other tools that we use to do this. We have more robust tools that we use to do this. What are some of those tools that we are using to track performance?
Yeah, so we use Tableau, and Tom builds wonderful Tableau dashboards. He can really do any type of view with our data. And again, that's customized for the client and has tracking it in something like Monday.com. It doesn't give as much flexibility as to what Tom can build in Tableau. But I also think we don't just use Tableau for reporting as well. We use Motion, I think Motion.ai.
Yep.
And so that's giving very specific creative performance and shows what that creative looks like, which I think that was a key thing that we were missing. Of like, what we have all of these assets within this creative pulse, but like, what is a specific asset that's working, which again helps the efficiency of the whole team to be like, okay, here's a winner, let's iterate. Or we see promise in this one, let's push spend here to make those quick decisions.
Right. No, that's a great point because we do use Monday for that, for, what needs to be iterated on a lot in the creative department. Did you have something that you wanted to touch on about the creative resources, the motion graphics people and stuff?
Yeah. So I think one of the big things with the motion graphics team is their main focus is executing on creative to really do this rapid creative iteration and testing that Jump is known for. In order to be able to do that, they need to not spend all their time in meetings and talking to clients, which is why then they rely heavily on Monday to keep them organized, keep them informed with everything that they have working on. But I also think it's a good way for the team to measure as well as to what else this motion graphics director can take on.
Yes. No.
So I think like making sure when you're thinking about performance tracking, you're not just thinking about it from necessarily like a number standpoint, but like how can we make the team more efficient and get them what they need? So then there's less like hunting down and figuring out, or like they shouldn't have to join every meeting because we should be able to track that information in this spot for them.
Absolutely. That's great context. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Monday sort of boasts a lot of things about, improving cross-team collaboration, enhancing customer engagement, time savings, and all of those things. And I'm assuming all of these things are true about Monday, but just like, being people that are sort of boots on the ground in a digital marketing agency, and we love Monday.com for a lot of different things, we are using it more for the broad strokes of tracking performance, and we're really digging further into the data and that kind of thing using more robust tools like Tableau and Motion. Yeah. Excellent. Well, Morgan, so many great points in today's conversation. Anything that you wanted to add here before we close out?
Yeah, I think when you're thinking about using Monday.com and integrating it with your other tools and whatnot, you really have to think about the people that are going to be using it and getting buy-in from your team and making it useful and efficient really means tailoring how you use it, when you use it, to the people at the company. And I think that has been a big part of what Jump does well is like I said earlier, like the creative team is going to use it differently. Even within the creative team, the creative directors are going to use it differently than the motion graphic directors. And then media team's going to use it different than like the senior growth directors. So I think figuring out a way to get buy-in from your team and support them is going to drive the best results when using a tool like Monday.
Excellent point to end on there. Morgan, thank you so much for the talk today.
Thanks, Matt.
That is Morgan Scheib, Senior Project Manager at Jump 450. And if you are listening and you are interested in exploding your own digital growth, you can get in touch with Jump 450 in the link below in the description. That is www.jump450.com. And don't forget to subscribe for more weekly episodes. We'll see you next time.